Open focus induction. So just let yourselves rest in your chair or your bed. Try to be as comfortable as possible. If it's okay with your body to be upright, that's always best so you don't fall asleep. But if your bodily pains are too distracting, just find a way to be comfortable. And just gently listening with no goals to this following set of instructions. So I want you to imagine letting your mind and body naturally and effortlessly respond to the following questions about your ability to imagine experiences. Let yourself imagine that you have no effort being required to listen to what follows. Can you imagine that there's no goal of achieving any of the associative images or experiences? And can you imagine that your imagination is very subtle and effortless and includes all your senses of touch, taste, smell, not just visualization? Let yourself imagine letting your multi-sensory imagination respond however it may as you listen to these questions. Let yourself imagine that the opening and expanding awareness of your emerging experiencing is a continuing process. And can you imagine giving emphasis to the feeling of space? The whole space that the room occupies. And paying attention to the feeling of space that your whole body occupies in this room. And imagine sensing the space inside of you as your breath naturally flows in and out. Is it possible for you to imagine what it would feel like to sense the three-dimensional presence of your thumbs, of your fingers, of your whole hands? And as you imagine sensing this three-dimensional presence of your hands, can you imagine the fact that your fingers and hands are made up of atoms of matter? Can you imagine the reality that an atom of matter consists of millions of times more space than solid matter? More space than stuff. Let yourself imagine that your hands, made up of atoms, are like clouds of tiny particles revolving around one another, floating in a vast space between the particles in every direction. Can you imagine that your hands are clouds of particles floating in space, right where they actually are, surrounded by space and permeated by space? Letting the sensation of absence, the space, and presence, your hands, serve as a model for experiencing other portions of your body. For example, is it possible for you to imagine that the whole of your hands and arms, including your elbows, are surrounded and permeated by space? Can you let yourself imagine that with your hands, wrists and forearms, elbows and upper arms, that this includes your shoulders, surrounded by and permeated by space. Can you let yourself imagine moving downward, that your feet and toes are these clouds of particles surrounded by and permeated by space? Let yourself imagine the spaciousness of your ankles, your lower legs, your knees and your upper legs. Can you imagine the spaciousness in your hips, around your pelvis and your buttocks? And see if you can let yourself imagine the spaciousness permeating and surrounding your abdomen and navel and the region between these and your back and all your internal organs. See if you can imagine the spaciousness in your chest and back, the region between your ribs and all the organs inside your rib cage, your lungs and heart and liver. Let yourself imagine the spaciousness in your neck and throat. Feel the spaciousness in your whole body from the neck down. Can you imagine the breath flowing up behind and around your eyes and throughout the inside of your head, your lips and tongue, teeth and gums, jaw and chin, cheekbones, and all the regions between them, your ears and temples, the space permeating your eyes and forehead, the sides and back and top of your head. And see if you can imagine sensing your whole body simultaneously as clouds of particles, a fog of feeling, including mists of emotion, floating in space, permeated by space. Can you also imagine feeling the space in the whole room, in addition to the space permeating you, the other people, and other objects in the room that can also be clouds of particles floating? Let yourself imagine hearing the three-dimensional silence of the space in the room, the silence out of which each sound arises, the silence in which sounds exist and to which they fade. Can you imagine space surrounding and permeating thoughts, visual images, your own mind's internal dialogues, as the space permeates and surrounds your entire body, feelings and emotions? Let yourself imagine seeing space, feeling space, hearing silence, and experiencing the space in your mind. Is it possible for you to imagine participating in your everyday activities with the awareness of spaciousness that you are now experiencing? Can you imagine practicing this open focus 1 to 2 times a day to bring this spaciousness into your life? And when you're ready, you can either go on to one of the other practices from the space of spaciousness, Or you can begin to come back in the room, feeling your weight in the chair, your bed, or the floor. Gently turning your head, wiggling your fingers and feet, and slowly and softly opening your eyes. Thank you.